Justin and we're SewLong, and today we're doing a water tightness test on the various fabrics we use here in our shop. Now we've got most of the fabrics we use, we've got a few others we're kind of curious about. We did this test a number of years ago, and the results were kind of surprising. Some perform better after weathering, some perform better when new, and we want to kind of do that again. What really brought it up for us this time though is recently the manufacturers have changed the way they make the fabric, or more importantly the finish of the fabric, and remove PFAS from it. So we started noticing some of our covers out in the field will bead up differently, or water will run off or seep in. And so it just piqued our curiosity, and we thought, hey, we'd like to try this again with the new fabrics and the new PFAS-free coatings to see if there is indeed any changes. So this really is a very unscientific test, and it really doesn't tell us what is the best fabric for your boat cover. There's a lot of factors that go into what's the right fabric for the boat cover or for the application. Things like breathability, does it mold and mildew prevention, how UV resistant is the fabric, how long does it last in the sun. So today's test really is just about how watertight the fabric is. And again, with coatings, we've got 6 samples here. We're gonna do 6 more. We're gonna do a couple with coating on them so they have more of a waterproof membrane. We expect those to be really watertight. These 6 that we have here today are all a woven fabric. So with the coating on them to create that water repellency, these are the ones we kind of expect to leak a little bit or maybe a lot. So we're gonna let curiosity sink in here to see what we find. So to start this test, we're simply gonna take a gallon of water and pour it into our little shower caps we made for each of these buckets to see how much water they hold over a 24-hour period. So we're back, it's been 24 hours, and some of the results are a little interesting, some are not very unexpected. We've got our WeatherMax here, which actually performed better than I recall it performing last time. Our Top Notch 7 and Top Notch 9 leaked all the way through. And then we've got some Utopia over here. The Top Notch 9 actually leaked through pretty quick. It did last time. Interestingly enough, when we performed the last test, after we weathered the samples, which we're gonna do now, these fabrics actually performed better than the others. Not just initial when it's brand new, but after a long period of time. The other thing I really wanna call out here is that we tested black and gray. I was just curious this time around if color had anything to do with it. And so far, visually, it doesn't appear that color has any effect on the water repellency, or the water tightness rather, of the cover. So that said, I've got some other samples I'm gonna test. So I'm gonna test these tonight. And while I'm testing these for the next 24 hours, I'm gonna take these samples home and I'm gonna put them in my washing machine on a very long cycle, no detergent, to kind of simulate the covers getting used and weathered. And then we're gonna bring them back and do another test. As I mentioned, this particular fabric in this first round performed the worst. In our last test, after we weathered it, it performed the best. So I'm really curious now to see if that's still the case. So phase 1 is complete on the first 6 fabrics. I've got 5 more I'm gonna test here tonight. And then while I'm testing these, I'm gonna go weather the first 6 samples so we can test them again. Okay, we're back. These have been sitting out for 24 hours with water in them, and kind of interesting results. So we've got our Sunbrella here, which is the only completely woven fabric. It's a woven and breathable fabric. Is obviously leaked through. Let's see if we can pop this off and kind of get a feeling for here. You can see how the water's actually seeped through it, and some of it's gone down there in the bottom. So it's held a pretty good amount. What's interesting though is these other 4 fabrics actually all have a coating on them. So these 2 look really watertight. This one looks pretty watertight. This one has leaked through a little bit, but now I'm super curious to know if they feel wet. So this one feels really dry. The bucket's really dry on the bottom. So that's the Hydrofend. Let's check this one. Okay, so interesting. This one is a Hydrofend, the other had a CVR, and it actually it's a little bit wet on the bottom side. So it has a coating, but still kind of penetrated through that coating. Here's our Aqualon. Again, a little bit of water in the bottom of the bucket, and I can feel water on the bottom of the cover. So Interesting that that coating has not held it, and here's our top gun, which actually has quite a bit of water and quite a bit of leaking. So that's really surprising to me, especially these coated ones actually letting a little bit of water through. So, all right. So let's go back to our first round. I have weathered these. I put these in my washing machine at home. I didn't use any detergent. I put them on a really long cycle, like 2.5 hours, with a couple of towels to just kind of simulate being out in the weather, in the rain, in the UV. I guess it's not really UV, but just being crumped up. And in our last test we did this, we found that after they were weathered, they actually performed better, some of them did not. So I'm gonna put these back on and we'll run another 24-hour test, and we'll be back with more while I go throw these in the washing machine. Second test of the first batch of fabrics, set up and ready to go. We're gonna let it sit 24 hours and we'll show you the results. And we're back. It's been 24 hours and I'm quite honestly a little surprised, shocked, and a little bit disappointed. All of our buckets are virtually dry, or at least the water has seeped completely through all of our fabrics. I mean, all the same. Now these have been weathered. Based on our last test, we had a little bit higher hopes that these would actually tighten up a little bit and be more watertight after being weathered, or some of them. That's what happened last time. This time, not so much. We've got this one here in the corner, the Utopia, that's still holding some water. Again, a little bit surprising results because this one has a urethane coating on it, or some, I don't know if it's urethane, but a coating on the backside, which kind of makes it more waterproof, but yet most of the water has seeped through this one. So, that said, now I'm really curious what's gonna happen when we go back to testing our our second set of samples after they've been weathered. Second batch, round 2, prepped and set, ready to go. And we're back. Second batch, second day of testing. Again, a little surprising or almost a little disappointing, especially from some of the coated fabrics. Sunbrella performed very much similar to the other woven. These Hydrofends performed one of the best as far as a water test. Now you gotta remember, this is just one of many characteristics about what a good boat cover is. There's thread, there's breathability, UV resistance, and we're gonna go over all those in a little more detail with each particular fabric. And then the other thing that this is reminding me that, we don't want to have big pools of water on our boat covers, because even no matter what the fabric is, it eventually will seep through. So let's go into more depth on each one of the fabrics that we tested. So our little test was quite interesting to me. It confirmed a few things that it seems like based on my last test, and I didn't document that really well, nor did I quite honestly document this well. It's not scientific, but just from recollection, it does seem to kind of prove that the new PFAS, or removal of PFAS from the finishes, has affected the performance of the fabrics, especially the woven fabrics. So again, the other thing it's taught me is that we really want to make sure when we're making our boat covers, there's no areas that are going to pool, because generally if the water is running off, it's not leaking through, but if it's sitting there, I've learned that it's actually pooling through. So I wanted to get real and kind of go in with my observations on each one of the fabrics we tested, and kind of whether we use it or not, or what it's good for, or what it's not good for. Starting with this first one here, this is the Aqualon fabric. This is a fabric that we use for our big double-up storage cover. We market it as a waterproof type cover. And I was a little surprised at how much water actually ran through it. Really surprised. This is kind of a competing brand. This is the Top Gun 1S. Quite a bit of water went through this one. And again, really surprised. I'm not as surprised with this one. If you look closely, you can almost see the coating isn't quite as full as the Aqualon, but again, both of them allowed water through. And these have the coating on the outside. So again, really surprising to me that these actually leaked water. Going down the line, we've got our samples of WeatherMax here. Let's make sure we got our WeatherMax. This is the fabric we still use a fair amount, but we're slowly transitioning to the Top Notch 7 based on which covers. These two fabrics, or 4 colors, perform very, very similarly. In this test, the WeatherMax performed a little bit better initially, but after weathering, they almost performed the same. Again, reminding me that when we're making our covers, we want to make sure there's no pooling. Generally, we use this fabric for our swim deck covers or our tower down covers because the polyester fabric is way strong and great for travel and transport type covers. But again, it's not intended for long-term storage. So that's where we're using the other fabric. Moving on down the line, here's our top-notch 9, which is basically a heavier version of this. Again, this one probably performed the worst from my bucket test, but what we use this on is our pole guides. It's a really durable fabric. So the waterproof doesn't really matter on your pole guides. If you get a little water seeping through your pole guides, no problem. The bigger issue is the boat running up against it. So again, I really stand by, I think that's a good fabric for the application, but maybe not the best fabric for every application. We've got Sunbrella here. Sunbrella, again, behaved, it held pretty good in the beginning, but after it was weathered, I mean, almost all of the all wovens to me seem to be the same, especially after being weathered. So I didn't really see that there was one that performed better, which is interesting because the last time we did this test, this fabric did the best. It actually did way better after it got weathered. And this time we didn't experience that. So I'm wondering if that's the PFAS. And then lastly, we've got some Utopia and some Hydrofend that we've tested, Hydrofend and Hydrofend CVR. These fabrics all have I'm not sure what the technical term is, but it has a coating on the bottom, which in essence makes it a solid membrane. Again, I was really surprised at how much these leaked even with the membrane. And again, some of these, one of the things you want to consider is that it might be, might hold water better than one of the others, but it might break down in the sun, or it might not be as abrasion resistant. So again, I really want to stress that this was an unscientific test and really only one little tiny piece of the bigger picture when it comes to what fabrics are the best fabric. And not only that, there's a lot of different types of boat covers and different uses for boat covers. And so there's different fabrics for different uses. That said, I hope you learned a little something. I learned a lot. I'm excited to try out new tests on new fabrics or test things in different ways. If you got comments, leave them below, or if you got suggestions, leave them below. Thanks for watching.